Okay. Welcome everybody. We're going to get going. I know we're still waiting on a few more people, but we also have our Zoom audience waiting. First of all, I'd like to thank you for coming in person and those that are at home on the Zoom to learn more about our exciting new partnership. I'd like to first introduce Michael Cockcroft. Michael is the owner of Chicago Rush and the lead for the entire program in the region here, in the Chicagoland region. For those that don't know me, my name is Tom Gizynski. I'm executive director at the Wilmette Wings as well as the club president. A little bit of background, I've been with the club now for 16 years. So quite a bit of time in most hats and most roles in the club. And I have to say, this is probably one of the most exciting moments that I've experienced in the club throughout those years. So really excited to share more information with you and the details about what we feel is going to be a great new step and a great new era for the Wings going forward. Okay, so what is a new partnership with Chicago Rush? So we feel is one of the top youth soccer programs in the North Shore. Wanting to find a partner that can give us some benefits, and it's one of the top youth programs in the North Shore, merging with one of the top national and regional programs of Chicago Rush. I think one of the main questions is like, why are we doing this? We kind of feel it's three main reasons why we're looking to do this. One is we really believe in our community-based focus of soccer. Starts out local, starts out with your friends and family, and we go through this journey together. We love that community aspect that we have with the Wings, and we feel Rush will give our players access to a national and regional resource, benefits, and access to different platforms that a club like us at a community level may not have, because we're a smaller organization. Partnering with someone like Rush gives us the bandwidth and gives us a critical mass and a lot of pooled resources from a national program in order to provide new pathways, different opportunities for our players, parents, as well as coaches. We're gonna take a quick pause here while we adjust maybe some volume.
No, we're gonna let the 6 people in.
Okay. Okay, all set. Okay. Second big reason. I know there's a lot of different organizations that we could look to partner with that'll give us exposure, give our players something more, give them opportunities and resources. We felt Chicago Rush not only gives that to elite players and those that want to pursue a pathway to college and beyond, but Rush also has opportunities, resources, and different programs that fit the soccer player, from the person who's out there just to have fun, from the recreational experience, all the way to the elite athlete. The third being is, again, resourcing, or all the resources from online training to College Fit Finder to different national and regional resources that we'll cover in our presentation that you'll see in a moment that Mike will discuss, okay? So I'll turn this part over to Michael here, and he'll kind of give us a little brief introduction on what Rush Soccer is, what it is in the national footprint, and then bringing it down to the regional footprint here in Chicagoland area. Michael?
Thanks, Tommy. So thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys coming out tonight and the guys on Zoom. As Tommy mentioned, I'm the owner executive director of Chicago Rush. Chicago Rush has been around for 4 years. It came really off the back of the birth year change, when we went from birth year to, when we went from grade year to birth year. At the time, I was a director of coaching of a club out in Oswego, and I worried about the depth and the opportunities that our players would now have because we're having to essentially play under one age group. So I got with the like-minded clubs and shared the idea of, hey, why don't we come under one umbrella and help each other and share each other's players, which then blossomed from that idea into, well, hold on, 1 week we're trying to have a kid from Lincolnshire come and guest with a player from Oswego and a player from Bartlett and a player from Manuka, and we're getting loaner uniforms, and realized the logistics and that was difficult. It was definitely a benefit. So there's a friend of mine who was one of the directors at Georgia Rush in Atlanta, and he said, hey, why don't you create your Rush entity? So 2017, I reached out to Tim Schultz, who is our president across the world, and shared the idea with him. And within 2 or 3 months, he's like, sure, you can now have a license, not a franchise, it's a license for the state of Illinois. So in that first transition year in 2017, we created one Rush team. We still had our community involvement. We still had our brand of Panther Soccer Club at the time, for those who have been around youth soccer. Bartlett Hawks out of Bartlett, Three Rivers in Nanuka, and then Lincolnshire Lightning up here in the north. And we created this one Rush select team, essentially what it was. So the better players from these communities came together, didn't interfere with our day-to-day, and played at a state cup level or went off to a showcase tournament over the winter time. And really from then, it blew up. I think we realized in our own communities, we're in a different situation where we didn't have a solid board structure. We didn't have as much community involvement as we wanted to. And every year or 2 years, we're transitioning out our board members. And every 1 or 2 years, we're trying to, draw and attract players into our community. And so I'd like to hear the surrounding areas of Northbrook and then in the competitive arm of North Shore, we would lose players to Naperville, we would lose players to FC United, we would lose players to Lake Forest. So we try to come up with an entity of how do we keep ourselves going? How can we make ourselves still community driven, but connected through soccer? And that's kind of what emerged from it. We then created Chicago Rush in 2019. So 2 years of this transition, all of these clubs became Chicago Rush. We kind of left that entity of what was those local community names to become Chicago Rush. And we've now got 220 teams, I believe, under the Chicago Rush umbrella. And really it's from there, it's grown into 7 areas, which I'll get into. But to give you a quick backstory, Tommy and I go probably 10 years back through a mutual friend, Ryan Hayes, who I believe used to be a coach within Wilmette Wings, who's now a assistant director of coaching at one of our South clubs, and then he coaches at a D2 school. So Ryan and his family and my family are real close. Done some Aussie rules soccer, or Aussie rules football with Tommy. We played some soccer teams together and a team together, got them socialized together. So really, we had this connection and relationship through soccer many years before this came about, and built that trust, with each other. So Tommy, the coach, has shown some interest of, hey, I'm having similar issues to you had when you had your community clubs. Is this something that we can look to do? And fast forward, where we are now, and we brought Rush on. So Rush Soccer started in 1997 out of Colorado. Rush now has 30,000 members across the US. We're close to 45,000 across the world with an international program. And it really, like I mentioned before, it was really scary initially for families of thinking, wow, we're joining this huge entity. Are we becoming this huge entity? And really, we're not. I think it's important to know that, and we'll still have that community involvement. Give me 1 second. I think it's on here, Tommy. That community involvement, yet being powered by something that comes together. There was the fear factor of losing the Panther name. At the time, the Panthers was linked to their local high school, and there was always that affiliation. But our club grew outside of that. So in order to give us that community feel still, we're looking to join with a network that is unprecedented. It's the world's biggest youth soccer organization with 40,000 plus members across the whole of the world. So we're excited about having Wings coming on, having the community involvement in similar philosophies and coaching roles that Tommy and I have to be introduced into Wilmette, but then also giving a pathway for players as they progress through the Wings to actually be able to utilize the Rush network that I've experienced over the last 3 or 4 years, which has been, it's been fantastic for those players from a younger age to understand, well, okay, where am I going? Is that glass ceiling still there? Which typically we had at our own local Rush clubs, that at 13, 14, there was always that neighboring club, that had more success at the other age groups. And it was so hard to get a trend going of, well, hey, we can provide it. And before we move to the next slide, I distinctly remember a moment from being a Panther soccer club to being Chicago Rush at a showcase event. And it was only sophomore kids, so it's probably maybe not relevant to anyone here, but it was something to now look forward to. We go to the Indie Showcase every year in November. You know, there'll be hundreds of college coaches out there in an orange uniforms as Panther Soccer Club. We literally, as coaches, had to beg these coaches to come and watch these players, and the talent was great, but the brand just didn't fit with what college coaches were looking for. The year later, we had these nice Adidas uniforms. Chevy logo was at the time, and it was exactly the same team. And we had about 30, 40 college coaches up there. And I asked one of my coaches, like, go and find out, like, why are they here? And it was purely because of the reputation of Rush. He helped out with playing the Giants team out of Michigan, which is decent reputation too. And in that moment, I was like, wow, just the change in brand has changed the perception of who we are. Yet nothing's really changed massively internally at that time. We're still being coached the way we want to coach them. We're still the same players. Since then, 2 years down the line, everything else that Rush provides, from curriculums to networks across the country, has continued to leapfrog us into that hopefully successful career and era that we're in now. So I think, you know, this gives you an idea, a real good snapshot in blue of where we're located. I think most recently we've just got another Rush club in Brazil. Another one is just opened up in Barcelona in Spain. But another one in Valencia, Spain. And then you can see the sites across the US. And that, to me, and hopefully exciting for our coaches too, that network is a resource that nobody else can provide. There's nothing else out there that can match the resources and network that Rush has. So this gives you just kind of a quick timeline of when it was formed. I think it's a real good snapshot. Our president, Tim Schultz, is really forward-thinking and very bullish in what he wants to achieve over the next 19 years. And that's to be the most recognized brand in the world. And he's talking at an elite level too. So that our pathway provides, in 19 years' time, potentially a Rush professional team. We've got affiliations through our Capelli sponsor already with clubs across Europe. We've tried a couple of entities within the US of doing the USL League, which is a tier below MLS. The cost now to get an MLS franchise is hundreds of millions of dollars, but it's a goal that he's trying to achieve and get to. And I think some of the most notable players we'll talk about in a little bit, Connor Casey for those soccer purists from many years ago, to probably the most recent one, Lindsey Horan, who was a Colorado Rush alumni, and Christian Pulisic, who's a Chelsea, who's a Michigan Rush alumni. He bounced over the clubs, but he played a couple of seasons at Michigan. So it's great to be part of that whole network. You know, so there's some of the players that I mentioned to you. And what's cool is I get into some of the programming that Rush provide that your son and daughter will hopefully get access to. Tim actually, who's our president, Tim actually coached Lindsey Horan, and on occasions at the select events, if it's out of season for Lindsay, she'll attend some of these select events, which for role models for the girls in particular, will come out and speak to players of U12, U13, U14 of, hey, I was a Rush player, this is what I did, this is where I am now, is probably, you know, a regular US women's national team player and a, you know, successful professional player now. I think this next weekend we've got our regional hub, which is essentially all the best players from across the country are coming to St. Louis to play in a regional event. And we have a couple of pro players coming out to talk to our players and our coaches about, hey, this is what we did when we were in Rush, this is how it became successful. So we realize there's a small percentage of players that make that, but as a role model perspective and a way to be driven, I think it's really cool to actually be part of that network, to be part of that community that now is a Rush affiliate and a Rush connection that, hey, we can now see that. Hey, I'm a 12-year-old girl looking to play pro, going to play in college, and a role model of Lindsey Horan is a great step towards that. So this is our pathway. We probably all fall in the competitive element. Our development is probably our house or rec program, if you have that here. And then within Chicago Rush, because we've got our seven clubs, we'll have our own select program. And then this is kind of where Wilmette Wings and Chicago Rush North Shore fall into the Chicago Rush footprint. So our Rush Fox Valley is out of a field in Batavia. Rush North is in Lincolnshire at North Park on Halfway Road in 94. Our Rush West is out of Bartlett. Our Rush South is out of Joliet, Manuka area. Our Chicago Rush United is the most recent affiliate, which is an old program that's now out of Aurora Dome. And then our main hub, Chicago Rush, is out of Oswego, which is where it kind of originated from. And then obviously our Chicago Rush North Shore, which Tommy will get into in a little bit, is going to be our U13 and up, and then our U12 and below is the Wilmette Wings powered by Rush. So the programming is endless, and I just really want to recap on a few of these. You know, again, from a growth perspective, we can talk about economy of scale. That we're looking to get real neat, sharp uniforms. We can get it at a price that you probably wouldn't get with a Nike or Adidas, because we've got 1,000 kids within the Chicagoland area, 40,000 across the country. You know, when we do travel, when we do tournaments, when we do you know, out-of-state events, we've got connections with hotels, with car rentals, and everything else that comes with it. You know, to me, it's about being part of something bigger that we can lean on, and the networking for our coaches, our players, and our families is huge. So these are just some of the benefits that we can get into a little bit more detail. The biggest probably benefit right now and going forward is our select program. For those familiar in the soccer network, it's like ODP, right? It's your all-star team looking to put our best players across all of our clubs that you just saw into competitions that maybe you can't do locally. Maybe you're a player that wants to be pushed and driven. And as directors, that's typically the trend. We lose our top 3 or 4 or 5 players that, you know, want to be pushed and challenged and go to these high-level tournaments or compete in State Cup. And that then typically implodes a team or creates more of a challenge for us as directors. So we offered a model for players to join our select teams, and within our network, there's 3 tiers. There's a local Chicago Rush, which we'll try and do a local, regional, and national event. Then we coordinate with all clubs at the beginning of the season. Okay, here's the events we're going to do. Black that out in your schedule and avoid those dates from a training perspective to a tournament perspective, and from a state of presence cup perspective. Then from there, if you're one of those top kids, this is typically U11 and up. If you're one of those top kids within that local select team, it still needs to be pushed and challenged. Rush offer a regional event to 4 regions, Southwest, Midwest, and Mid-South. And within those 4 regions, we then pick the best players. And the best players, which is actually going to be this weekend, are going to St. Louis. Missouri Rush has this $10 million amazing facility, bar, restaurant, all built in, 5 turf fields. So all the best players are going to go from each region to St. Louis in 2 weekends' time to play against each other. So it'll be Midwest against South, against West, against Mid-South. And then from there, those best players are then selected for a national program. And we'll go to a top-level national event across the country to play on the Rush national team. Now, at the younger age levels, the Rush way of travel is this is U13 and up. So the national and regional level start at U13 and up. The Rush way to travel is you'll stay in the same hotel room with a player from Hawaii Rush or from Alaska Rush. Obviously, given COVID, we've put some limitations on that, but typically how we've done it. And the experience now of rooming with a player from Hawaii Rush, Alaska Rush, Connecticut Rush, to then all being in the same minivan of traveling to and from the game. So you arrive at the hotel in Arizona, for example, on a Thursday morning, and your parents say, all right, off you go, and it's like a residential camp. And that experience of learning the Rush way, the curriculums, learning the coaching philosophy, learning, you know, Rush chants, you know, the rush way to do a corner, the rush way to warm up. They have this full experience, probably that they've never had before, with traveling with the team and given that life lesson experience that typically you wouldn't get with a local club. And typically these events, the regional and national events, are also set up where it's not conflicting with anything local. So again, thinking about, and I may lose, you know, 3 or 4 players for this weekend, and the rest of the teams would be really upset because the best 3 or 4 players are there. Well, logistically, all of our admin and DOCs and directors and executive directors work this schedule out at the beginning of the season, and it's all blacked out for the year, so we don't have this conflict. And that, to me, arguably has been the biggest benefit when I'm thinking I'm going to lose a player, because that neighbouring club's offering ECNL, MRL, and all these other fancy things that are going on. Well, hey, look, here's a pathway that I can get you to. Again, it's endless. Our Rush Fest is exactly what I experienced, but it's specifically for U12 boys and girls. And it's for all ages and levels. So the question sometimes is asked, well, hey, what happens if there's only 10% of Wilmette Wings that are at that elite level? What does the rest of the club get? What are we signing up for here? Again, the technical development center is we try to put a training program together for all the Rush kids to come in and train and learn the Rush way and skills and everything else with it. Our player loan program. If a player, even if he's on YSSL 5, IWSL D division, do they want the opportunity to go and guest with a Rush club just because they want more playtime, regardless of the level? So there's those player loan opportunities. And then Rush Fest. Rush Fest is again, it's going to be in Missouri. That's become our central location because of the facility. It's any current U12 in July of next year can go as a whole Wilmette Wings team. Adam could take all these teams down there and spends 5 days learning the Rush way. You have themes. So Virginia Beach Rush comes in and they've all got lobster hats on. Hawaii come in with their lays on. Alaska come in dressed as bears. And all of these teams are coming in doing chants and spirit, you know, activities. Then play against each other in soccer games. If 4 kids want to go, 4 kids could get put on a SoCal Rush team or a Texas Rush team and still experience it. So it's this mass network that's available for everybody. It's not just the elitism that get this opportunity. I joke with Tommy, it's cultish, but when you're in a circle and seeing on Instagram a kid wearing the same uniform as you in Alaska, or you've been to a Rush Fest, or you've loaned a player from a different state, and you see those kids, all of a sudden your community feel is still the same internally, but the community now expands to this whole Rush network.
So Michael, it's like the other side of the coin, talking about Rush Select being for those top players. Mm-hmm. Something like Rush Fest is for every player, right?
Rush Fest for every player, technical development for every player, player loan program for every player. College Fit Finder speaking to Tommy today, an 03 girl, she's not on our select team, she's on our second team in Oswego. Her dad calls, hey, can you connect us with the college advisory program director, which is Josh Tyler and Matt Klosterman? Said, sure, hey, how can I help you? Hey, my daughter's looking to go to school. Is there, you know, in Florida in particular, she's an okay player. She's, you know, B3, you know, maybe any NAIA. And I said, sure, like, when are you looking, when can you go? And we've got to connect it with Florida Rush to go to the Disney tournament over Martin Luther King weekend, just because we won't be going there. So it's going to be hard for college coaches in Florida to see her play. And we're not going to change our whole program, because typically our players are really smart, affluent families looking to stay in the Midwest, their homebodies, looking at D3 liberal art, you know, type of schools. And I'm fine with that too, we are. Sometimes outside of that network, what can we provide? And this family now are hooking up to go and play Florida Rush over Martin Luther King weekend just by a simple text or an email to another technical director, executive director of the Rush Club. So it opens up this network to everybody. And then really, it's just recapping, you know, some of the things we talked about: the Rush Select program, local, regional, national. You know, the player loan program we shared about, the open practice program. But do I expect, you know, a 10-year-old to want to do extra training and go to Manuka to train in the winter time or train in the spring? No, but does it happen? Yeah, we have some parents who are willing to do that. That opens up a network if you want to do that. Here, where it's probably relative and what's great for our North Club is we train at Highland Park Dome over the winter time. So for you guys as Wilmette residents, the Highland Park Dome is what, 20 minutes, 15, 20
10,
minutes?
10, 15.
You know, you reach out to your coach and yeah, I'd like some extra training. He connects with Tommy, Tommy connects with me or Ben, who's our North director, and those coaches. Hey, we've got 3 players coming out this week to do an extra training on a weeknight with our Rush 2010 boys, for example. So that's a huge access to just being part of Rush and getting extra training. And we know how tough winter can be with only how many nights of training? Do 1 or 2? One night a week. Now you've got access to 4 or 5 nights. So Highland Park go on a Thursday, or Vernon Hills little kickers facility on a Sunday afternoon, and then hopefully some other places nearby. College exposure camps. College Fit Finder is a software program, and for those who are familiar with the college side, Captain U is the equivalent, which you sometimes have to pay a subscription. That's all free under Rush. There's these NCSA, which is a college scout network, and you can pay $1,000 for somebody basically trying to get your kid into college. We don't need that now. We've got our own college advisor program that can guide your son or daughter from as early as freshman year, saying, don't panic, you don't need to do anything, to, hey, you're a junior, senior, we need to get on this, how can we help? You know, guest paying opportunities with other Rush clubs. Tommy's talking about getting some loaner uniforms for the younger ones, so players want to go and help the U19, U10 team, whoever else, we can have access to that. And then obviously the recognized brand, and that was talking about it at Collegiate Showcase, Reach program, and just expanding our pool. The Reach program is really it's a charitable organization. When we're collecting cleats, old soccer balls, we have sister programs even in underprivileged communities in the US, or sister programs over in Africa or Dominican. We've sent stuff to ours is Cameroon. So today we'll do a collection and send a bunch of soccer balls, cleats, old Rush uniforms, with Soko is the Cameroon guy who's always looking to try and get his players to come and play college over here. I think that's really covered it. I think Tom's going to go into a little bit more of the what does this mean and when does it start?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Michael.
I know it's a lot of information, kind of what I let off with. What the main benefit for Rush is there's so many different programs, so many different opportunities for kids to be challenged, whether it's through the player pathway or online resources, or for those players that want to, again, try to find success in an elite pathway and then on to college and beyond. So now fitting all those pieces, those benefits, those programs into wings, I think it is super important to know how those fit in and what we can see and when we can start seeing it. So when does all this start? Well, technically or officially, the partnership of Chicago, Rush, North Shore, and Wilmette Wings will not kick off till next fall 2022, 2023 season. But some of these benefits, like the player loan program, open practice program, we're going to start the ball rolling and a lot of that programming, or as much as we can, here in the winter. So we'll start seeing opportunities and benefits to our members and our Wilmette Wings as soon as this January. Michael, next slide. So winter, spring, what we can see start happening here, kind of tick off a few of the things that Michael mentioned in the programming. Rush Select is what he mentioned. So Rush Select is that program where all the member clubs in our area, so we have 7 now Chicago Rush clubs in the Chicagoland area under Chicago Rush. The directors, coaches will look to find and identify players who we feel can challenge and play on these Rush Select teams. That will start, we will start that process and look to try to identify current Wilmette Wings that we feel can contribute and be players within that Rush Select program as early as this winter. We'll most likely have multiple ID clinics, and the staff will work in conjunction with Michael and his staff on identifying and selecting those players that could move into the Rush Select program. Some of the things that the Rush Select teams will do then, as Michael mentioned, kind of like the ODP model or all-star teams, they'll be competing in state cups, state cup competitions as a group. They'll be competing in a regional. They'll have a regional camp that will be 3-4 day sleepover camp for just the Rush Select players in the summer. as well as possible other regional tournaments. And that will start as soon as this winter. We'll also start, so Super Wide will be something that we'll be able to take advantage of pretty quickly. Super Wide, for those that haven't heard about Super Wide before, it's a summer league that's created for competitive clubs. Rush is one of the 2 organizations in the Chicagoland area who has access to admit teams in the Super Wide. As soccer's evolved over the years, you know, we go with the fall, winter, spring component. Travel soccer now is building into a summer component as well, and Super Y is that outlet for us. It will be similar to Rush Select, but open to more players through an ID clinic as well. And that'll be for anyone interested, and we may have multiple levels of super wide teams. So Michael and I talked about, as you saw the network that's spread out for Chicago Rush right now. We are going to be one of the main hubs in the North area as Chicago Rush North Shore. And then we have our closest partner, Chicago Rush North, which is Lincolnshire and whatnot. We're hoping to possibly bring together Chicago Rush North, Chicago Rush North Shore, and see which players are really interested in doing in the Super Wide League. And we can have our own Chicago Rush North Region Super Wide. And there may also be a Chicago Rush South Super Wide team. And those games will be local as well as regional. But that's another chance for us to find exposure for the kids that want to do more, possibly in the summer, and just giving more opportunities. The other 2 that are probably pertinent that we'll have right away here in the winter and spring is the Player Club Home Program. So starting at U11, and we'll kind of tick through which age groups will benefit from these, the Rush integration right off the bat. But the Player Loan Program will kick off at U11 teams and older. So that's right now 2011 teams and older. And that again will be a chance that you will play for your Wings team. If you're looking to get an extra game in, or maybe a team in the team out of Aurora needs an extra player, or is going to a different tournament, or a team out of Lincolnshire needs an extra player, we'll be able to send Wings players to go fill those rosters. So any players that want to have extra games, they can. And it'll also be beneficial for us. You know, there's times that we might have someone who's sick, or we're missing players for whatever reasons. We typically source those players and give those opportunities to kids within the Wings and guest play within the club. But now joining the Rush network allows us to do that in a larger player pool and access to a handful of more players. So right now, roughly the Wings is 400 players. Michael, what's the network right now within the Chicago Rush network?
Oh, 170 something.
Okay. So for us to expand that player pool right there up to 1,400 players gives us great flexibility in trying to match kids on competitive level teams to make sure that everyone's developing as much as possible. Lastly would be what Michael mentioned. We did talk about the open practice policy. So again, we practice 1 day a week in the winter. This allows any member, Wilmette Wings members, if they want to hop in and do some training sessions with Chicago Rush North, if we feel like we want to go get a training session in out in Oswego or Schaumburg, you know, you might be visiting family out south. You know, there's practices basically 7 days a week. If you want to do more, this is going to be a great opportunity for you to take advantage of. So what will be different once we finally transition fully into Chicago Rush in the fall 2020? We want to do a visual representation of what our player pathway is going to look like moving forward in the fall. You know, our tryouts for this upcoming year will kind of merge into this player pathway. As you can see, we have 3 distinct tiers within our player pathway that we'll have at the Wings going forward. At our U8 through U12, we'll be powered by Rush. The club will remain Wilmette Wings. Our players will be in Wilmette Wings jerseys, uniforms. The coaching staff will remain the same. We'll still be providing the same great community-based experience that we're having right now, with the added benefits of Rush programming and other opportunities that we spoke about. Each age group will have a little bit different opportunities that are open to them depending on their age, and we'll tick through that a little bit. Once we graduate after 12U, 13U and up, we will transition as a club. The Wilmette Wings will now be called Chicago Rush North Shore. And for us to be the hub here in the North Shore area to expand our community-based footprint, just, we know we have players that are outside of Wilmette, but we'd like to expand that community-based feel to more than just our local community and try to expand that reach out to the surrounding neighbors, Evanston, Northbrook, obviously Winnetka, Glencoe, and beyond. At 13 and above, there will be new uniforms, and we'll fully integrate into the Rush Bowl. Michael? So we'll just tick through kind of the exact details and integration you'll see at each age group. U8, U10, as I mentioned, will be in Wilmette Wings uniforms. Wingers at those ages, it'll be the first initial integration with Rush, and a lot of that will be behind the scenes and access to online platforms and different curriculum that is going to be available to not only the players, but the parents and the coaches. That integration will come in different forms where we could set up little jamborees. I know I see some younger players here, or players we've done the Kickoff Classic. For instance, the last few years, it's the first little tournament learning experience that we do for our U10s and below that we've partnered with other local clubs. This will now expand, and there'll be opportunities where we have our Wings players, U8, U9, U10, possibly doing a Kickoff Classic within this Rush framework, where we can really harness that and get these kids to be exposed to Rush early on. It'll be one of their first moments or first opportunity to do something within a Rush event. Access to online learning, again, the resources that Rush provides and the amount of online access to online curriculum, online skills drills, online practice routines is boundless. And starting at U8, all players in the club will have access to this pretty massive online platform that the kids can access to, as much or as little as they want. And then lastly, just as, again, those jamborees, camps, clinics, we provide a certain amount of winter clinics. We provide a certain amount of opportunities outside the general scope of what the Wings can do, outside of our general programming from the fall, winter, and spring seasons. But being powered by Rush now and joining with 7 other programs will allow us to provide a bit more with critical mass. Different locations that might be at Lincolnshire, might be us hosting different things for Rush and bringing different players that get to interact with our kids here. The biggest jump that'll start with different changes will be at U11, U12. Again, we will be still Wilmette Wings in jerseys, but now we get to start integrating a bit more with Rush players and other Rush coaches and other Rush organizations. This is where the players will start to have access to those different programs that we talked about. Rush Loan Program. Starting at U11 and up, players will be able to play on other Rush teams whenever they need to fill in gaps on teams, or our players are looking for more chances to play, or vice versa. When other Rush players are looking for opportunities, they'll be able to come play for the Wings. Rush Open Practice Program, we talked about that. This will start at U11 and above. So we'll have access to that and give these players who want to do more at these ages chances to participate and do more. Super wide, we talked about. This again will kick off here at 11U. Those Rush Select programs, which is for players that are selected and identified by the coaching staff to make all-star teams, ODP type model teams. And then Rush Fest. Again, it's open to everyone. Rush Fest will kick off for those 12U and above. Okay? And finally, the Rush Way. As we graduate into the 13U, this is where we'll transition as a club into Chicago Rush North Shore. We will no longer be Wilmette Wings in uniform and jersey. Still at heart and still running through our program. And this is an extension of the Wilmette Wings at these ages. But the rebrand here is for us to harness the Rush network and try to expand our community feel that's local and start to build that out to the North Shore community and beyond. As you see here in the 13U and up ages, starting to get access and access to the CAP College Advisory Program, the Fit Finder programs, the technical development centers. Michael spoke about that a little bit, but those are going to be little, basically ID clinics where you get to work with top coaches in rush areas that might come in, not only locally from the other rush organizations, but also maybe regional rush coaches. And we bring in those players on different TDC weekends at a location where all rush club members come in. Michael, where do you typically run the TD center? So that's typically out of Schaumburg?
Yep, Schaumburg.
Yep. And then the regional national rush select programs, right? So at these ages, if we want to play out of state, want to find a team to play for, Michael had a couple great anecdotal stories, personal stories about players that, you know, you might be going on vacation, let's say on spring break to Florida. You want to play some soccer there, we could find you an opportunity to do training sessions with the Florida team. You're out visiting someone in Michigan, find those same opportunities there. And I think we want to boil down the last final 3 questions. I think these are obviously going to affect everyone here at the Wings, right? The first one is, how will this partnership affect fees? This Rush partnership does not include any additional fees from the Wings part for the program that you've been receiving and will continue to receive. So the general Wings program that you run from fall, winter, spring, that you've been accustomed to and playing for all these years, there will be no additional fees because of this Rush partnership. Fees will still be managed by the club, and there might be increases in fees because of facility rentals or different expenses that happen, but there will be no fee increases because of this Rush partnership. It's a lot of value added, joining the network, but no additional fees as you register for the Wilmette Wings or Chicago Rush North Shore. There will be fees for any additional programming that players may choose. For instance, if you get selected to the Rush Select program, and that's additional tournament play, residential camp, there's different fees that coincide with those different Rush programs. But for instance, loan program, open practice play programs, all those are at no cost, no additional cost to any of your Wings registration fees. Okay. How will the partnership affect the player's experience? Wings will still be the Wings. We're just adding all these different benefits. Okay. We've seen what they are. We've ticked off when they will happen at certain age groups, but the feel of our club and being local, being community driven, playing with friends, playing soccer on a bike, staying local, all those things will remain and those experiences will continue. And we're just hoping to enhance them with extra opportunities and pathways for the players that want to do more. And do we have to change locations and train to play games elsewhere? The answer is no. The Wilmette Wings and Chicago Rush North Shore footprint will remain in our current footprint. That means training here in Wilmette, indoor in Northbrook, other local fields if we have access to expand our footprint locally, but all our training as a Wilmette Wings North Shore will remain in Wilmette and the local surrounding areas that we currently do. Now, if you're doing Rush Select or any of those open programs that we've spoken about, yes, you will go there. But any programming that is strictly offered from the Wings will stay in our local footprint. Okay. Michael. Okay, before we open up to any questions, I just want to say that what Michael mentioned, and it's something that when we talked over the course of the last 6 months or over the years, when Michael and I have talked about Rush and just soccer in general, the one thing that I think exemplifies what the Wings is our community-based approach. That means it's local. That means we care for our players. One of our underlying messages, one of my underlying mottos is coaches who care. I feel that exemplifies what we want to be as a club. I feel that gets lost when we try to move to a regional national brand. But I think what Rush does a great job of, and it's a tagline that Rush uses and Michael's mentioned to me, and it really captures why I feel that this is a great partnership and gives us great synergy, is connected by community, driven by soccer. And I think Rush does a great job of allowing all their Rush regional clubs from our region to all 40 states that they're currently in to all over the world, keep their core identity as a community, but harness the benefits and the power of of a larger regional, national, and international brand. And allowing these community-based partners to not only keep their identity, but harness the power of the large Rush Nation. So really excited about it. We have a lot of things in motion already. As I said, winter will kick things off right off the bat. We'll start seeing all these different opportunities starting in the winter to start getting involved in Rush. We're hoping everyone really gets a chance to take advantage of these. And yeah, excited for that. I think we'd open it up right now for any questions that people may have for Michael and myself. And we'll open up the floor.
So currently looking at the order groups, it looks like the Waits have one team for like 3 or 4 age groups, kind of points. Do you see this as being able to provide eventually team for each age group, like the 17-year-old, 16-year-old, and 15-year-old, all in one team rather than combining them together eventually?
Yes, so that's our hope as rebranding to Chicago Rush North Shore and expanding our local very specific Wilmette footprint and opening up to capture more players in the region and hopefully utilizing the obviously the pathways and benefits, all the resources that Rush provides to be enticing to recruit and add players to our player pools at those older levels. So then we can add teams to our program. Ultimately, yes, we would like to have 2 teams per age group playing as their birth years. So for instance, it would be two teams at U19, 2 teams at U18, 2 teams at U17. And we feel that the benefits and the resources that Rush provides will allow us that opportunity to grow. Michael?
Yeah, I think to add on to that, you know, knowing what the high school program is and knowing what 7th and 8th grader brings, that parents say, I want more exposure, I want to play on these top level leagues. I think the struggles we have as directors is it's sometimes really hard to build something with nothing. So when there's nothing there, it's how do we get a team of 16 players at an age group? So I think it's not great from a budget perspective, but I've learned through the clubs that, hey, we've got 11 players, 10 players that are interested in this particular age group. But hey, we can make that happen training locally, knowing that when games come around, we can pull from Rush North or we can pull from Rush South, or we're going to these events. And when we've got a start and a base for certain age groups where we've never had before, with support from other clubs, it just starts building something. And I think having something there to build is critical to bring these kids back at a high school level. I think that's the goal.
So the Rush camp that you guys were referencing, the July camp, right?
Rush Fest?
Yeah, so I know that's only for U12. So as we're looking to transition, and I know that the partnership really commences in 20 to 23, but is there any possibility for that the current U12 kids could potentially participate in that, the fest?
100%.
Yeah, the current U12s, we would hope that they.
We would love
So
that.
July 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes.
And look, here's a scenario. I actually spoke to the Rush Fest director. Let's say it's Adam's whole U12 team wants to do it. We get on, we order the uniforms. The uniforms aren't in time because they'll be U13 Rush North Show in the fall. They can go with their Wings uniform. They can go there and represent, especially as a partner club, to do that. Hopefully by then uniforms will be in. But 100%, it's to take advantage of that. If half of his team's interested, then again, we can use our other Chicago Rush players. Or like I mentioned before, if there's any other players across the country that are coming in with only half a team, we typically put that together.
And I know, and although the 22-23 season will be the official start of Chicago Rush North Shore for the 13s and above, as open as, or if the opportunity arises for us to integrate or have opportunities for our players now to access any of the Rush benefits, we're going to make that available. Michael mentioned there's a hub event, which is this centralized event that's happening in St. Louis in a couple of weeks. I know we have our 2010 team, which are the U12 team, actually going down and playing at the St. Louis tournament. Michael and I were discussing today how to maybe get those kids involved. I know they're at the tournament, depending on the schedule. How can we get those kids involved to just kind of be part of the hub? Maybe come see one of the matches and get involved as soon as something is 2 weeks from now. Any opportunity we'll have to give more and give more access and give more opportunity, we'll do that from day one. So as soon as we start rolling those out officially in January, but this might be an opportunity as early as 2 weeks. Anyone else?
Yeah. So outside of the programs and the benefits that they could take advantage of, what will, is compared to currently, what will the kind of schedule look like from a practice perspective, a game perspective, kind of outside of those other options, like going forward? Will it look the same from a staffing perspective too?
Yeah, from a practice schedule perspective, from league participation, it will relatively remain the same. We'll train the 2 to 3 days in the fall and the spring. We may add additional training in winter, more than 1 day that we currently do now. Those are decisions that the Wilmette Wings organization will make, and that would be separate from what we do with, Rush National, Regional, or part of the select program. So all that would basically remain the same. Again, in our local field footprints here, staffing will remain the same. The coaching staff will have access and start to integrate some of the Rush curriculum models and tweak probably some of our training here and there. But I feel we do an excellent job of making sure that our players have a solid soccer IQ and technical foundation that will continue and remain.
My question was very similar. Will there be any changes coaching wise or support for coaches? You mentioned a little bit about training for coaches available for Rush, which is nice. But are there any changes to like the support staff for the wings or the board structure or anything like that?
Board structure will remain the same, and the club as it's run right now, the back end and the current structure of the club is a 501c3 nonprofit will remain the same. As far as coaching, again, our coaching staff will stay and integrate into Chicago Rush North Shore. I think one of the things from a coaching perspective is those resources, not only that we have for the players and parents, but those for the coaches. Part of this hub event, I'll be going down with Michael, and Adam will be there, and we might have 1 or 2 other coaches that get involved. The Rush organization is so big. One of the parallels, there was a United Soccer,
United Soccer Coaching Convention.
Yeah, there's an annual convention that represents all the coaches in the country. It's a great event. It's a 4 or 5 day event, brings 20, 30,000 coaches throughout the country. It's a great opportunity to learn and network for our staff. Rush has such a large footprint that they run their own coaching education weekends. And this hub event is tied in being one of them. So that's just giving our coaches more resources and opportunities to learn and grow with the most cutting edge coaching techniques, what we're going to be looking to integrate from our wings model, but then as transition into the Rush way. And so that's very exciting. And also from what we talked about, trying to recruit players and fill our older teams and grow the club, the same can be said for coaching. Michael made the comment before about being Oswego Panthers and trying to get college coaches come watch that team. It's the same team, just with the Rush logo on the next year, and there's 40 college coaches there. The same can be said on a coach's search as well, right? For us as Wilmette Wings to attract coaches, I think we do a great job. And as I said before, our staff is underlying model is coaches who care. And when we interview and bring on coaches, we look for specific qualities. And we feel that this connection with Rush will open up that pool available to us of quality coaches and new hires, obviously, as the club grows and expands.
Hey, Tom, congrats, first of all. It's super exciting. All the challenges that you referenced that you 13 and out. Michael, a question for you. I'm really interested around the Rush way protection of players. So it's great, tons more opportunities for these kids to play. We've all been there. We all know it. All you got to do is watch an ESPN or a sports documentary around how these kids, how to protect them against burnout.
Sure.
They're getting injured. They're playing 3-4 years up against players up because they're talented. They're elite. Coaches are trying to get after them, bring them, and give them more and more opportunities. Playing 5-6 times, practicing 6 times a week. Very curious around your thoughts on that, and particularly around protecting these kids.
Sure. I mean, look, I agree. I think part of that burnout of overplaying is not having the depth within a club, not having, you know, a structure in place where you're having to use guest players at certain age groups. And unfortunately, I see it happen across other clubs, and even occasionally within our own program, is everyone wants the best kid and wants this kid to play up 2 or 3 ages because they want to win. So again, the numbers that we've got of 1,300 players with wings coming on, we try to have a model within our club that we promote from within. While it would be great to get Tommy's best 2012 to come and play with our 2012 because we want to win that game, we look at, well, what's that next age group below? And I think every club wants to have 2 teams in every age group. In our philosophy and our model is, hey, if you've got an A team and a B team, the B team player, and you need guest players, the B team player helps with the A team, and the A team helps with the top, another age group above. But again, when you've got depth, you don't necessarily have to do that. So you're allowed to keep your players within that structure. The leagues have got better at putting the safe sport in now, and for the protection of players for outside variables. You know, we've got this network of education. Pablo's out of Florida, who oversees the whole education program for Rush. And it's funny, something we just talked about is, you know, is mental health issues with both players and with coaches, and how can we help keep people active. The year we've had with COVID, you know, we didn't step on the field for probably 6 months, and what activities that we could do online to keep people engaged. Whereas a club, sometimes you're fumbling and struggling to provide something online on top of running a budget, on top of coaching a team, managing staff. We had a specific group of people out of Florida who were specifically working on the education piece, that we essentially go into a RIP file, Rush intellectual property, on a Google Drive, and pull out all those elements of it. Again, I think it's not necessarily, hey, has Rush got something in place? We do. I think it's more about, we've got depth, we've got support in other areas through education that we can provide these players an opportunity to not have that burnout. Look, a lot of it is, and I find this because Rush is so big, every day I've got a new initiative in my email, and I've learned now as the owner and executive director of there's only so much I can roll out. And I think it's a parent education piece that we've got to put out there saying, hey, these are merely opportunities, but you don't have to take all of it. When we educate our coaches, there was a girl at 07 who was doing exactly that. And this was 2 years ago, and I worried about that ACL, right? She was a kid whose body had changed quicker than others. She's playing up on our 05 team. She's playing with the boys in our age group. We're trying to push and challenge her just through common sense and knowledge within our own organization. It's like, yeah, I think you should take a rest. Like, don't do anything from now until February. It's hard for a kid to take that, but I think there's just so many situations that we've dealt with, and probably Tommy has too, and he could probably attest to a lot of this, of being a student enough to know as a program and as a coach, all right, enough's enough. And Tim Dean's our select director, so he oversees all of the select programs, and he'll manage that within each program of seeing, well, why is this 05 select one who's really good, why is he going to our West Club and Bartlett playing with our 03s? And we call out the 03 coach. Well, we were short on players. Well, okay, use your 04s or 05s within your own club. I get it. We know as coaches that we want to have success because we don't want the parents getting on us because we lost, right? Probably, again, that's a real generalization, but it's now about parent education of, hey, it's okay to take a rest, or specific type of training in the wintertime. Like, we flip from being on these long grass fields to a futsal court in some of our locations. importance of footwear, importance of using the right ball, importance of a warm-up. We've got a rush warm-up. You know, it's an adaptation of FIFA 11 for our coaches who are familiar with. FIFA 11 warm-up is 45 minutes. We're not going to do 45-minute warm-up, so let's adapt it. And every kid from U8 through U19 is doing a variation of a FIFA warm-up. So we try to have a distinct brand that when you're pre-game or first time you arrive at practice, this is our warm-up. And it's sometimes an element just go. I don't know if you have team managers, I know.
We do.
You know, some of our clubs don't have team managers. So as a coach, you're having your registration card to the referees and checking in. Hopefully we've trained most of our teams. Sometimes that's our director's job to call them out. But knowing that those players, when they get to the field, oh, here's my 20-minute FIFA 11 warm-up before a game, while the coach prepares for their game. So it's, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's an education piece that we put in place to hopefully try and eliminate some of those concerns that you mentioned.
And Kieran, I think going back to why, you know, we feel the synergy between the wings and Rush is, again, coaches who care, and Rush is an organization that cares for its players. It's not about trying to push these kids to get them playing on these elite teams because they need those kids. It's expanding opportunities that those kids would like to participate in. Onboarding for the last few months and going through the process, again, just seeing all the different resources from mental health awareness. They'll do a little webinar where players that, you know, will put out to the group, high school age girls, high school age boys that might be having some burnout or want to, you know, they do a mental health awareness little webinar with some professionals and talk through different tools and resources that they could use to kind of combat the mental stress that they're feeling, especially in the last, you know, year and a half of COVID. So I think as a whole, the Rush organization looks after their players. And I feel knowing Michael and the staff and all the different regions of the Chicagoland area, it's those stewards of those organizations who are similarly aligned to care for them.
And I think it's important to know as well. I've had multiple other clubs reach out wanting to be part of Rush, and it's really something that I've never done a hard sell. It was purely the relationship Tommy and I had in knowing Ryan as well when he was here, in those similar traits that Tommy talks about, that we've aligned because, you know, it obviously, you know, it's like, well, hold on, there's no additional fee. I think it's obvious to say, I want to align with the wings because of the depth you have at U8 through U12. It's huge, it's great. In some of our teams, at that U11, U12, we struggled a little bit. So to have that depth is great. To be able to get access to his coaching staff, to be able to help coach some of our select teams is great. Like, we want like-minded clubs to be on board, and there's no grandiose vision of I'm going around cold calling every single club because I'm just trying to grow. I'm not. It's happened purely organically because of similar relationships that I've had with all 7 clubs that are now connected. There's not one of those directors who makes the decision at those clubs that I've never known. It's been a relationship built over a lot of years on the field that we've kind of come to this moment. And it's nice to know that organically here's where we are, but we also know we've still got a long way to go. There's still a lot of things that our community's got to learn from, and especially the giants out there that we lose players to. That's all probably similar frustration of why are we losing the players to a brand that's selling something different, when I know that coaches care within our own organization that we can offer similar, if not better, probably at a lower cost too, and more of a convenience than what some of these giants are doing.
Anyone else? Yep.
I just have a question. So it's now because we're still so young, but it's now the path and you stay in a club team through high school and you do your high school team, or you do both. I guess I just don't really understand what the.
Yeah, so club, once you get to high school, the club, for 98% of club players or high school soccer players, the club component complements the school component.
So you do both.
So for instance, if you're going to New Trier and you're a freshman, and boys play their season in the fall, girls in the state of Illinois play their school season in the spring, the club seasons complement those. So our programming for our high school boys would not start until the school programming is over. So they play for, let's Nutria as example, they play for Nutria in the fall. Once that season ends, we would transition into, like, I believe tomorrow, our one high school boys team kicks off scrimmage and training tomorrow. And we'll work through the winter and then do a spring season. So they're both complementary of each other.
And in middle school with the competitive players not do their middle school?
It's less of a, they can, but it's not like a synergistic relationship. Club soccer wasn't built around the middle school, grade school market is so fractured. It's so different to very regional and specific districts and how they run it. But we've had players, you know, look, they'll come to a wings session, but they really want to play for Marie Murphy. So look, they're going to miss our team practice, but they're going to miss it doing soccer. You know, we work with parents and players who work with us. And that's what one of the great resources now that, let's say the wings practice is Monday and Wednesdays and the Marie Murphy practice is Wednesday. Okay, so they're going to miss one of our practices, but Rush North has practice Tuesdays and Thursdays. So you could recapture some of those training hours and sessions with one of the local other Rush organizations as well.